Monroe Jett, thank you for joining me today on Technologies Now. And in honor of this podcast, we're going to call this episode From Solo Hustle to Scalable Business Success, based on what you have done here. And I think our viewers will hear that you've got a very impressive story from being a successful banker to founding a very impressive title company model. We're a technology company. I'm very interested in, what you're doing there. But mostly, we want to hear your story. I'm going to kick it over to you and, let you kind of take it from here, if you don't mind.
Yeah, thanks. So there's actually three steps to my career. So born and raised in Lexington, Kentucky, went away to boarding school, came back, went to the University of Kentucky, majored in marketing, went to work in the family business after school, which was banking in a small community bank in central Kentucky. I worked there 15 years in every department, learned every single thing about it, went to basic banking school, state banking school, and graduate banking school at LSU, and became the president. Almost left the bank three times while my father was living, but I chickened out each time to go do my own thing.
All right.
So 3 years after he passed away, I wanted to leave and go try my own thing. So I left after being at the bank for 15 years. It was a big deal. And I started my own title and escrow company, full service title and escrow company, serving all 120 counties of Kentucky with real estate closings. Did about 8,000, a little over 8,000 transactions. Had a team of seven employees, and it was so I did that for 15 years. And it was during the operation of my title company that I had an unusual type of client come to me and wanted just a sliver of what we did. We'll do, let's call it 10 steps. The first step is a title search all the way down to closing, and you issue a title insurance policy. That's what an escrow company does. But this company was a foreclosure law firm. He was an attorney. He was a college buddy of mine. Said, "Hey, Monroe, can you handle 3,000 to 6,000 searches a year for us? Can you get those for me all over Kentucky? I just want one spot to go to." And I said, "Sure." So it became, this is why I own my title company. So this was really difficult to track everything. There was three stages of tracking. There was what orders I've received, what I've pushed out to my abstractors, what I've received back to my abstractors, and what I've delivered back up to the clients. Then there was second piece was communication about problems with any of those searches that stopped them from being completed. They had to be resolved. So that's a communication piece. There's all kinds of other issues with communication back and forth while the search is being done. And the third and final piece was invoicing, receiving invoices from my abstractors, marking them up, sending them to my clients, tracking what I've been billed for, what I've paid my abstractors.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Getting multiple invoices, duplicates, charges for searches that were canceled, duplicate invoice, duplicate charges, all kinds of issues. It was just a nightmare, right? And so how did I track all that? Well, I used inboxes. We had spreadsheets with color codes, handwritten notes, and hard copy folders. We had the spreadsheets required data entry, which meant error, omission, backlogs, and all of this tracking that I was doing. My client was mirroring that on their end. They were trying to mirror it on their end.
Right.
Right. They were doing the exact same thing, having the exact same problems. And so at any one time, I had 3,000 entries on this spreadsheet. Right. And
Oh
so,
my gosh.
or more. So whenever we tried to reconcile, they never matched. Right. So files are getting lost. We worked on shared or strict naming conventions and shared drives and shared spreadsheets. It was just a nightmare. So I automated it. Right. And I created Title Leader, and I sold my title company 6 years ago. And I've been running Title Leader since. So the first 3 years, I really didn't do much. I automated the process for that first client, and then I was bored, and so I started selling, and I started bringing on other clients, and so we now have Title Leader. Let me tell you what Title Leader is, and then I'll tell you the
Yes,
four
please.
user
Thank you.
groups that
All right.
we have. So Title Leader manages, or Title Leader makes title search management, title work management easy. So it's a long, mandatory, repetitive, manual process that just wastes absolutely a lot of time. So you have to, regardless of whether you're ordering searches or you're ordering title commitments or you're tracking closings, you got to order, track, receive, access, store, find, communicate back and forth, receive invoices, collate them, total them, and pay them, and eliminate all the error that are there. So we eliminated all of those problems, and we automated that manual process. So Your team no longer has to worry about dealing with administrative tasks. You just go about the work that you're doing. So what teams am I talking about? Am I talking about escrow companies? No. Escrow companies are primarily residential, and there's a very mature software industry that serves escrow companies, right? You've got all the major platforms that they use, but the platform that I created is for everybody else who relies on title work in their daily work, daily, weekly, or monthly work. They don't have any automation to handle any of that. So all of those parties that are not an escrow company, but that rely on that title work and in their work product, I'm their only automation solution. So, and I don't charge any subscription fees, license fees, or have any user limits. We'll talk about that in a minute, because the vendors in our marketplace pay us. They revenue share with us. So I
Nice.
removed all barriers for customers to use it. So who are these 4 user groups that need title work? Who are these companies? Well, I've got them basically into four big buckets. So the first one is foreclosure law firms. So, it's foreclosure law firms, tax lien investors, and counties and municipalities that are collecting delinquent property taxes. Okay. They've got to do title searches to prepare to do foreclosures. So that's all. I'll just call that foreclosure. So, for example, we'll have a foreclosure client that'll drop in a spreadsheet of 750 parcels in 5 states because they've got a large client that they're going to send out foreclosure notices for. So they just drop in that spreadsheet and boom, all the completed work is all received right there, automatically received, numbered, and stored all in one spot that everybody in their office can see, and all kinds of other things that we do. So that's the foreclosure side, right? They order title searches, whether it's residential or commercial. Residential, we have set fees. If it's commercial, you're going to get 3 quotes from the 3 largest title search vendors in the nation that you don't have access to now because of low volume. All these clients have low volume. They don't have large vendors don't want to deal with onesies and twosies or 5s or 10s, and they can't handle 750 in multiple states, and we can't. So anyway, the vendors in our marketplace can't. All right, so foreclosure law firms. The second bucket is renewable energy developers. Okay, so these, for the sake of argument, let's call them solar developers. So these people it's solar, wind, and battery and hydrogen. These people are developing projects all over the nation, and they need title work. They need 3 types of title work. They need some small deed search related issues up front, which is like $150 a day turnaround time. Then in the middle of their projects, they may need longer searches, 30 or 60, 100, 120, even up to patent searches, which is all the way back to when the U.S. government first granted that property to the
Nice. Okay.
private
Right.
owner.
Yeah.
So they need searches, and then at the end they need to push a button and turn those into commitments, which they can do on our platform. Title commitments. All the title insurance underwriters in our platform: First American, Fidelity, Stewart, Old Republic, Chicago, Commonwealth, AmTrust. They're all on our marketplace. Renewable energy developers. They're handling title work all over the nation for different projects, all different types of title work, and they can order and manage that in our platform. The third bucket of users is commercial real estate. So who's in CRE? Well, that's commercial real estate attorneys. Like we had an attorney last month dropped in a spreadsheet of 85 car washes that company A is selling to company B at 3 different states, and they wanted to do prelim due diligence on these before they would close the transactions. They'd order title searches. They could order commitments if they wanted to, if they would have closed it, but it didn't close. So anyway, so they dropped that spreadsheet of 85 parcels in. They got 3 quotes on all of them. Boom. All in one spot. Everything's all organized, automatically received in one spot, stored in one spot. Anybody and everybody can see it. Communication about search interrupting problems. Docs are all attached, all in one spot. Invoices are always 100% accurate because they're automatically created, but they're grayed out. And as soon as the searches start hitting your dashboard, the invoice is populated. It brings in the fees that you were the quotes that you approved, and you can't have duplicate invoices. You can't pay an invoice twice. Anyway, so it just, you can handle in a few clicks what takes some hours now. So that's commercial real estate. So we have commercial real estate attorneys. The other people in commercial real estate are title insurance underwriters. So we have 2 of the big 4 Fortune 500 title insurance companies that are actually they're users of our platform. They're also vendors that provide title insurance commitments to some of our users, but they're also users, the National Commercial Services, their NCS divisions, when they need commercial title searches all over the U.S. So they're using our platform. That's really exciting. And then the fourth bucket, and we've got a fifth on the way, but the fourth bucket currently is private lenders, right? So hard money lenders. So they're lending funds to mainly investors all over the U.S. You might just be focused all in, one state, all in, say, California or Florida or Massachusetts. But or you could be lending all over. And so currently, if they're not using Title Leader, they're ordering title from all these different settlement agents. It's a pain in the butt. There's a wide variance of customer service performance that you're dealing with multiple agents. It can be a nightmare. Settlement agents, it can be a nightmare. So they wanted to track. They came to us. Our first private lender client came to us and was like, "Hey, we want to track closings." We're like, "Okay, well, we provide searches and commitments. We have all the national providers there." So we brought
Right.
on uh, the largest settlement agent in the nation, and then they wanted to track the stages of a closing. So we worked with them to find there's 8 stages to a closing, 8 stages,
Okay.
and
Right.
as each one is so. Instead of sending an email to order a closing or title work from some random settlement agent that the buyer chose, which is always a freaking nightmare, they just enter the property data, upload their closing instructions, and they're done. Boom, it goes to the settlement agent, and the settlement agent clicks as they complete each of these 8 stages of the closing. The first one is the search has been pre-search stuff. So, what do you want? Well, anyway, so there's pre-search, there's post-search. You've gotten everything from the seller side, you've gotten everything from the buyer side. The settlement statement's been sent out for approval from everyone. Closings have been set up with all parties, and then lastly is closed and funded. So anyway, and all the title docs are all stored in one spot. The settlement agent uploads. So anyway, so private lenders need to track closings. Okay, so we easily created a product for them, no cost to them. And then just so you know, what's on the horizon for us are wholesalers, right? So these are people that buy
Okay.
properties quick and easy. It's 70 to
Yep.
80% of appraisal, and then they'll turn around and flip them, or they'll fix them up and keep them in a rental portfolio. Usually they'll fix and flip. To people that manage rental portfolios. Anyway, they want to be able to track all the. I got a buddy of mine here in town who's in Lexington, Kentucky, which is where I live. They're a regional, all throughout the state, wholesaler, and they want to be able to track all the properties they're prospecting. The ones they're trying to find flips on. They need drop down menus of different data, and we're doing that for them, which is exciting, right?
So let me clarify that. That gives them a kind of a CRM database where they can keep track of what they have going on.
Yes, track title work, but they also want to be able to track everything else they're tracking by spreadsheets and color codes. So I went
Right.
in
Right. Yes.
and our kids played soccer together, which is kind of a couple of years ago, several years ago. Now they're all out of college, but he showed me his massive spreadsheet that he's got, and everything's color
Yes.
coded, and there's background color codes, and then there's text color codes, and everything means different
I've
things.
seen these things. Yes, I've seen these. It gets
So
terrible.
we can, I've got a 6-person development team that I use, and they're phenomenal, and they're local, Central Kentucky, and they are extremely talented. So anyway, so we can knock this stuff out for him and create him what he wants, and not charge him for it, and they don't pay anything. So that's the last thing I want to talk. Anyway, so that's the fifth potential bucket of users of our platform. But long story short, if you need title work in your daily work and you're not an escrow company, but you need title work, then we make it really easy for you. We'll save you hours per order per week, and we eliminate weeks of common delays. There's a variety of ways we do that. We
Right.
eliminate weeks of delays, weeks of closing delays, weeks of search delays, weeks of commitment delays, all kinds of stuff like that. And we add accountability because everybody can see everybody else's work. Right now, everybody's working in silos. If you're not using Title, you're working in silos. If you're not working in silos, well, they are. The way they try to get out of silos is shared spreadsheets and shared drives and strict naming conventions. That's human memory. It's data entry, error omissions. It's all the problems that I've faced that I've solved. So the kicker with our automation is that our revenue model is unlike any other SaaS product, software as a service. We don't charge subscription fees. We don't have license fees, or don't have any user limits. The vendors in our platform revenue share with us with the products that they provide, which is great.
Interesting. So the burning question I have here, Monroe, is what prepared you to create this business model? I can see where you needed to solve for a problem. Who did you bring with you, or how did you develop this software? I mean, how did this come to
Well,
be?
I needed to solve the problem for myself. right? And I want it to be as simple as possible. I wanted to see information. I don't want to have, just a bunch of clicks to get down to where you need to see. I wanted to see exactly what I needed. So, for example, when someone drops in an order, instantly it appears in the open orders box, and there's a blue line there. Say they ordered 60 searches. As each search hits the dashboard, the blue line extends to the right, says 1 to 60. You've got the number, you've got a nickname there. It's easy to find stuff. I mean, I wanted my job to be as easy as possible, and that's what our clients need.
Right.
So how did I design? That's how I went about it. Now, there were two key components to get it to look really awesome, which helps it perform, and then to make the back end work. So the front end is user interface, right? That's the way it looks. So I was very fortunate to have an extremely talented, creative friend who worked at another company, and I hired him to design and it blew my doors off, and everybody loves it. Which is great because it's color coded. You can see it. I told him I wanted color code. I told him I wanted to see everything as much as possible. Anyway, so that was the design, and then to actually make it work, I went to two phases there. First, I used a very expensive company, dev company, to develop it for me, and they were really expensive, and they were it was a foreign guy, but he lived here in the States. Communication was an issue. Didn't really understand the type of service and the way I wanted it to look and work. So I got lucky and found some guys that were at that original company, but they've gone out on their own. And those guys are
Right.
rock
Yes.
stars, and they get it. They understand what I'm trying to accomplish. Just there's no communication barrier, and it's really smooth.
Nice. No, that's perfect. No, I can see where you're solving this problem, and it's solving a problem for everyone else. The alignment is beautiful with your business based on how I see it. That's
And
a
you know what I found
great
out?
story.
I found out, sorry to interrupt you, but I found
No,
out
please
that,
go.
so I created this tool, right, originally for foreclosure attorneys. But it's amazing, like, when you create a tool, you don't know how it's gonna be used and who's gonna use it. I mean, the way we got into renewable energy developers was the guy who was doing sales for me lived in Charlottesville, Virginia, and there's 5 big solar developers there, and one of them was his buddy at UVA. So he called him up. They went to UVA together, and he said, "Hey, do you order title searches?" He's like, "Yeah, absolutely. We order them all over the country." I said, "What's that like for you?" He says, "It's a pain." He's like, "Well, let me show you what we've got." This is one of our very first customers, and so anyway, we're like, "Yeah, they love it." So they wanted couple of tweaks. We made a couple of tweaks. We wanted this. So it's interesting. You just have to be flexible with what
Mhm.
your customers want.
Our company Technologies Now focuses on the automation with AI intelligence behind it for real estate primarily. That's what our focus. So I have a great interest in what you think is going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years or whatever horizon. How would it affect? How would AI affect your business? How could you use it?
I see AI helping out in the residential real estate market by analyzing title search docs, hopefully performing title searches. Wouldn't that be great if you were able to do title searches online with AI? That would be amazing. I already know that there's several companies that have had bots now working with them doing this, as they referred to it at that time, as 5-year-old information.
Mhm.
But AI can really help. I also have learned that some title insurance companies, the large Fortune 500 title insurance companies, don't want you to issue a policy if you've not physically reviewed those docs. So there's some
Right.
conflicting
Yeah.
information about the technology that's available, and they want to accept the risk based on just an analytical tool looking over docs instead of a trained eye. So there's some conflict there that needs to be resolved in the industry. But can it do title searches? Yeah, if title search, if the counties are online. Okay,
Hmm.
so here's the problem delaying modernization of the real estate industry, the title industry. That is that the United States recording method for ownership, land records, is antiquated. It's absurd. So let me just give you an example. So it's in England versus here.
Okay.
So and there's some technically differences, but for the sake of argument, I'm just going to generalize the way it is in England. Let's say in England, you can look it up and you can see who owns a piece of property, and no one can question it. If the government says you own it, you own it. There's zero questions about it. No one can contend otherwise.
Interesting.
All right. It'll also tell you what liens exist on the property. So all you have to do is just look it up. There, it tells you.
Right. Right
It's
there.
a, it's a 90-second thing, right? So we've got companies that are from Europe coming over to the United States that are in the renewable energy field, and they're talking to me about title, and I'm just educating them on the outdated system
Wow.
that's done here, and it blows their mind. They're like, "Well, can't we just look it up and just see?" I'm like, no, here's the way it works in the United States. We have this recording method, all right, recording system, and essentially every property in the United States has a log of documents that have been recorded for that property. Okay, and it consists of deeds and mortgages and liens and easements and judgments. It's in another repository, but for the sake of argument, let's say judgments are there. Divorces, because marital status matters, and property ownership depending on what state you're in, because there could be spousal rights states. So anyway, so all these things, death certificates, wills, trusts. So all these documents get recorded on a piece of property. And so the best you can get in the United States, unlike England, where they say, you own this property,
Right.
unquestioned. Not so in the United States. The best you can get in the United States for a piece of property is, okay, and I'm calling it log. We don't call it the log in the title world, but for the sake
Good
of
description. Yes.
give everybody else, it's a log. So when they put that deed of record, they may misspell the name. Like I've got a funky name, Monroe Jett. You've got Urbach, right? Is your last name. I'm sure it's been spelled a million ways throughout your lifetime. Mine, it's nuts. So what if they make a typo of that name? What if they make a typo in the address? Like in Lexington, there's a South Prairie Circle where I used to live. There's a Prairie Circle, and then there's a North Prairie Circle, and they're all in 3 separate areas of Lexington,
Okay.
Kentucky, right?
Right.
So I lived there right when I just got out of college. So who knows? What if they put it on the wrong one? If I now want to go and search those records because someone wants to buy that piece of property, and I search those records, and because it was filed under another spelling and another name, I can't find it or I don't see it, then I don't report it.
Right.
So I didn't show that Bank One had a mortgage or the Chase had a mortgage. But what happens when Chase, just because that mortgage is misindexed, that does not necessarily mean it's invalid. It could be perfectly valid, but show up later on when they find out the property's been sold or something happens, or the county clerk, the county recorder's office catches their mistake, and like when they're doing something else on that other person's property, and they're like, what's this? What the hell is this? Somebody else found it in a transaction when they did a title search on that property, they got mistakenly recorded, and then they correct it and they put it back on the right property. And then now,
Oh, wow.
that was 2 owners ago, and now all of a
Right.
sudden I find out this mortgage is there. What a nightmare. So anyway, so those are defects, and that happens. And the recording log manual and the recording log system that we have in the United States. So it's a nightmare. And until that's updated, where you don't have to do a search to get what's called an abstract. An abstract is just a simplification of all of those documents. Here's what's valid. This is unexpired. This is unreleased. So nothing ever removes from that log either. Let me settle that. So this log is all these documents. Nothing is removed from that log. Well, then how does something get off of that log? Well, it either expires based on the statute of limitations, like a mortgage is good for 30 years plus maybe a 12-month appeal period, and there's a variety of other issues, right? So each state has all kinds of different documents, have different, and some liens don't expire, like tax liens, federal tax liens. If you don't pay your income taxes, boom, we'll slap a lien on your
Right.
property, and
Right.
it's
That doesn't go
superior to
away.
all other liens. So
Yeah.
anyway, so all these things get filed. Nothing ever gets off unless it expires or a release of that document is also recorded. So when a search is done, they'll hop on the computer system of that, and they'll go back 30 years and they'll start writing down every single thing you find, and they'll cross it off when they find the release, or they see that it has expired based on the knowledge and the data of the statute of limitation. They cross all that stuff off. What's left over is what they put on the report. So would it be great if our system just showed what's left over like England's does? Wouldn't that be not? Yeah, it would be great. And think of all the jobs. That's another reason that it won't be automated anytime soon, even though it should be. Like Kentucky has 120 counties. We should have 10. Georgia has more than us. Why? Well, back in the day, this is debated, but back in the day, you had to be within a 1 day's ride to the county seat, which is where voting took place.
Oh, you're
Right? You had to
kidding.
be up.
That is where that
In the
originates from? That is
time period.
fascinating.
It's debated, but
Yeah.
it makes sense because
Yeah.
Eastern Kentucky is all hilly. It's like, Hatfields and McCoys, West Virginia, that's Eastern Kentucky stuff. So, yeah, it's hilly there. So, anyway, it's ridiculous. So, there's a lot of duplication of work, of effort, of jobs. Think of all those counties and county governments and all the wasted money. It's This is absurd. But all those people have jobs, and people wanna protect the jobs and, like,
Well,
look what happened at Dutch, let's make this more efficient. I
right.
love it. I personally love that, okay? But in theory, I love it, and it should happen in real estate. So what could happen in real estate that could make this go away? Well, there's some big believers that blockchain will make it go away, and theoretically, it should make it go away because 'cause it'll eliminate the need. It'll say who
This
has
is it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, who owns it. So anyway,
Sure.
who knows what's gonna happen in the future? Is it, should it be automated? Absolutely. Will it be? I don't even know when it'll happen. It's not gonna be in my lifetime. I'm still in my 50s.
All right, got it, got it. And so that being said, let's take the step further with AI. Do you have a fear of AI? Do you think it's going to help us? I don't want to get
No, I don't
I
no, I
want you to just
don't have a
general
fear of it.
statements.
Well, I have a big picture. You could say I have a fear, like, who's gonna control the data that AI says is truth and not truth? So, yeah, from a macro perspective, I've got that. From a micro perspective, no, not at all. I think it's gonna be a big help, but I don't really know exactly what it's gonna be able to fix and what it's not gonna be able to fix, and what can it do that it cannot do, I don't know. So, it's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's switch gears real quick here. What can you tell us from your background that we wouldn't know just by looking you up? What or something you're most proud of perhaps that you've done?
Well, building this company and starting this company, I'm proud of that. I don't know if I would have ever started if I knew it would be this difficult.
That is fair. That is absolutely fair. But I'm sure once you get into it and you see perhaps where this can go and what you can do with it, that just has to keep the energy moving, right? And you get it moving in the
Yeah,
right
it's passion.
direction.
So for example, yeah, my company is bootstrapped. So, I haven't even tried to raise money, but if I did, it's just my total addressable market's massive. It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yes, no question about it. So if you had an investor that came along and said, "Hey, I love your model. I want to buy it," would you be open to that, or are you still trying to just grow it yourself?
Yeah, no, I would be open to that. It's been fun. I get to use my grape. I get to educate all these people who don't know anything about title. All the attorneys know about title, but all the non-attorneys that rely on title work on a basis, they don't have any clue about title. And so, I have this whole curriculum of things that I would teach. So I really enjoyed that.
There's new school and then there's old school. I still have a lot of old school in me here,
Yeah, man.
you know, putting it down in front of me.
You and me both.
Yes. I believe in technology, but sometimes having it in front of you is just absolutely perfect.
And you asked me if I would have any interest in selling or bringing on in. Yeah, absolutely. So the two large Fortune 500 companies, they both asked if in seeing our company and starting to use us, they both asked if I'm would be willing to sell, and so there's some initial interest in that, which would be exciting. So with one of those, I'm on the second step of three really big steps that they love, and if it goes really well, then who knows? It could really take off, which would be exciting.
No, that's fantastic. Let's end it with this. Here's a question I have for you for any of these um, owners or startups, business startups. What advice would you give to someone starting down the road of putting their own company together in technology or just in general? What advice would you give them based on your experience?
Two things. One is start now. The second thing is work your butt off. You never know what's going to happen. And this seems pretty basic, but let me just share this with you, right? You never know what you're learning and what you're preparing for. All right. So I worked for 15 years um, at a bank, right? And then I chose to leave the bank and do a piece of software. But the same week that I said I was leaving the bank, which was a big deal, I A buddy of mine who is a new this is how I got in the title business. A buddy of mine who was new in the escrow world. He was a new real estate attorney. He's like, Monroe, you're leaving the bank. I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, listen, you know all the lenders in town. You know all the realtors in town. You got great name recognition, and why don't you consider bringing in business for me while you get your software up and running? I'm like, okay.
All right.
So I closed my first transaction for him in less than 30 days, and it just absolutely took off. And my software company went by the side. So, it maximized all my strengths, it minimized all my weaknesses, and I can't remember. I remember at one point not realizing what day was Friday,
Wow.
because I
Yeah.
was just so happy. It was amazing,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
so, but my point is that I left to do some software, and it just took off. So I had no idea that I was preparing for 15 years to be a title guy. So the point is, and I tell this to kids I've spoken at colleges and high schools, is you never know what you're preparing for. You're building this skill set, and you never know how it's going to be able to be applied. I've got a buddy of mine who I went to boarding school with, and said, um, "Hey, he's out of a job right now. He's trying to figure out what he's going to do." I'm like, "Dude, you could your skills kind of." He's a superstar sales guy in management. There's a million different ways your skill set applies to all these other companies out there. If he's trying to want to scale back and reduce his income and still have great quality of life. So anyway, you never know what you're going to be preparing for.
Excellent. I love it. I want to absolutely leave it at that. You never know what you're preparing for, and look what you've done, Monroe. That's a fantastic
Well,
story.
I thank you. That's kind of you. So just to share this with you, I tell my kids that you never know what you're preparing for. Get this skill set, get that skill set, learn how to work for people, learn how to take instructions, learn how to give instructions, learn how to work with a team, learn how to solve problems, do this, do that, do that. Because you never know when you're going to need to take a left, when you're going to need to take a right.
Yes, that is fantastic. Well, Monroe, thank you very much for meeting with us on Technologies Now. We definitely appreciate it, and we wish you the best in your endeavors here.
Thanks so much, David. Really appreciate your time. Take care.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.